At my son's birthday party, my mother pulled me aside and whispered, "He looks just like him." I laughed nervously, "Like who?" Her eyes filled with tears as she said, "Your real father." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" She handed me an old photograph and said, "It's time you knew the truth." As I turned it over, I saw a name that changed everything. I never thought I'd be sharing something like this, but I need to get this off my chest. Maybe some of you can relate or offer advice. A few weeks ago, we celebrated my son Jake's 5th birthday at our home in Chicago. It was a lively gathering with family and friends, balloons, cake, and the joyful chaos that comes with a house full of kids. Amidst the festivities, my mom pulled me aside. She had this strange look on her face, like she was holding back tears. She leaned in close and whispered, "He looks just like him." I laughed nervously, not understanding. "Like who?" Her eyes welled up as she said, "Your real father." I felt like the floor had been yanked out from under me. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She reached into her purse and handed me an old, worn photograph. "It's time you knew the truth," she said. I turned the photo over and saw a name that changed everything, Michael O'Connor. Growing up, I always believed that my dad, the man who raised me, was my biological father. We weren't particularly close, but I never questioned our relationship. Now, at 35, to find out that he wasn't my real father was earth-shattering. After the party, once everyone had left and Jake was asleep, I confronted my mom. We sat in the dimly lit living room, the remnants of the party scattered around us. "Mom, please, I need to understand. Who is Michael O'Connor?" I pleaded. She took a deep breath, tears streaming down her face. "Michael is your biological father. We met in the summer of '88. Your dad and I were going through a rough patch. Michael was charming, attentive, everything I felt I was missing at the time." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So, you had an affair?" She nodded slowly. "It was brief, but yes. When I found out I was pregnant with you, I knew there was a chance Michael was the father. But your dad and I had reconciled, and I chose to believe, or maybe just hoped, that you were his." "Does Dad know?" I asked, my heart pounding. "No," she whispered. "I never told him. And when you were born, he was so happy." I couldn't bring myself to shatter that. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and confusion. "Why tell me now?" She looked down at her hands. "Seeing Jake today, he's the spitting image of Michael. I realized I couldn't keep this from you any longer. You deserve to know." The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't look at my dad the same way, knowing he wasn't my biological father. But more than that, I was consumed with the need to find Michael O'Connor. I started by searching online. The name Michael O'Connor isn't exactly uncommon, especially in a city like Chicago. I sifted through countless profiles on social media, but none seemed to match. I asked my mom for more information. "He was a musician," she recalled. "Played the guitar. We met at a jazz club downtown. He had these deep blue eyes and a dimple on his left cheek." Armed with this information, I expanded my search. I visited the jazz club where they had met, though it had changed ownership and names over the years. The current owner, an elderly man named Sam, had been around during that time. One evening, as we sat on the couch after putting Jake to bed, I turned to her. "There's something I need to tell you." She looked at me, concern in her eyes. "What is it?" I took a deep breath and recounted everything, my mom's confession, the photograph, my search for Michael. She listened intently, then took my hand. "Whatever you decide to do, I'll support you. But remember, family isn't just about blood. Your dad raised you, loved you. That counts for something." Her words resonated with me, but I knew I couldn't rest until I found Michael. I took a week off work and flew to New Orleans. The city was alive with music, culture, and history. I wandered through the French Quarter, visiting jazz clubs and asking around. Most people didn't recognize the name, but some older musicians remembered him. Michael O'Connor, one saxophonist said. Yeah, he played around here for a bit. Always talked about wanting to see the world. Think he mentioned heading to Europe at some point. Europe. The trail was growing colder. Feeling defeated, I returned to my hotel room and collapsed onto the bed. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Sarah. Jake misses you. We both do. Come home soon. I stared at the ceiling, contemplating my next move. Maybe Sarah was right. Maybe the man who raised me, who tucked me in at night, who taught me to ride a bike, that was my real father. But fate had other plans. The next morning, as I was checking out of the hotel, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? I answered. Is this Daniel? A deep voice asked. Yes, who's this? There was a pause. This is Michael O'Connor. My heart stopped. How did you? Sam from the jazz club in Chicago reached out. Said someone was looking for me. Took some time, but he tracked me down. Where are you? I asked, my voice trembling. Paris, he replied. I've been living here for the past 20 years. Paris. Halfway across the world. I'd like to meet you, I said, determination in my voice. There was a pause. I'd like that too. 2 weeks later, I found myself in Paris. The city was as enchanting as I'd always imagined. We agreed to meet at a cafe near the Seine. I arrived early, nerves gnawing at me. Then, I saw him. Deep blue eyes, a dimple on his left cheek, there was no denying the resemblance. Daniel, he approached, his voice tentative. Michael, I nodded. We sat down, the weight of the moment pressing down on us. I'm sorry, he began. I had no idea about you. If I had known, I held up a hand. I don't blame you. Mom made her choices. But I need to understand. He sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. Your mother and I, we had something special, but we sat there in silence for a few minutes, just staring at each other. I didn't know what to say, and from the look on his face, he didn't either. He was studying me, my face, my hands, probably searching for pieces of himself. I could feel it. I did the same. You look just like I did when I was your age, he finally said. I didn't know how to feel about that. Happy? Angry? Confused? I said, I've spent 35 years not knowing you existed. His face fell. I know. And I'm sorry. If I had known, I would've, I know, I cut in. I'm not here to blame you. I just want to know the truth. He nodded slowly. You deserve that. So he started talking. He told me about meeting my mom in the summer of '88. Said he was playing regular gigs at a jazz club near the river, didn't have much money, but lived for the music. My mom had come in one night with friends, and they locked eyes from the stage. It was instant, he said. I wasn't proud of it. I knew she had a husband. But I couldn't help it. I asked if he had wanted her to leave her husband. He shook his head. No. She was always honest about the situation. I think we both knew it wasn't going to last. But for those few weeks, it felt real. Then he looked at me again, his voice softer. I thought about her for years. But I never imagined there was more. And then, just when I thought I was getting answers, he dropped a bomb on me. I have another son, he said. I blinked. Wait, what? He nodded. His name's Lucas. He's 33. Lives in Dublin. Different mother. That relationship also didn't last. I tried to wrap my head around it. So I have a brother I've never met? He looked away, then back at me. Your mother, she came to see me once. After you were born. My heart skipped. When? He took a deep breath. Maybe 6 months after your birth. She found me, told me you existed. I stared at him. You said you didn't know. I didn't. Not until then. And even then, she begged me to stay away. Said it would ruin everything. Said her husband didn't know. She was crying. Said it would destroy her family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She knew you were my father and asked you to disappear? He nodded slowly. I wanted to fight her. I told her I had a right. But she said she'd deny everything. Said she'd never admit it again. And I let her go. I convinced myself it was the best thing for you. I sat there in shock. All these years, I believed my mom had kept this secret out of shame or fear. But now I learned she knew and made a decision to erase him. She told me she wasn't sure, I said. She said she hoped my dad was my real father. He shook his head. She knew, Daniel. You were mine. I could see it the second she showed me your picture. I clenched my fists under the table. She lied to both of us. Michael nodded, but I could see the guilt in his eyes too. I should have fought harder. My phone buzzed on the table. It was a message from my mom, call me when you can. I've been thinking about you. I didn't respond. Instead, I looked at the man across from me, the man who was supposed to be a ghost from the past, and now had a name, a voice, a story. So what now? I asked. He didn't have an answer. And neither did I. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. There were more lies. More truths buried in silence. And if my mom had lied to me about this, what else hadn't she told me? The unraveling had just begun. I barely slept that night. I stayed in a small hotel near the Seine. The walls were thin, and the air felt heavy. I kept turning over what Michael told me, over and over in my head. How my mom had come to him, told him I was his, and still told him to vanish. The next morning, I called her. She picked up on the second ring. Daniel? Her voice sounded tight, nervous. I met him, I said. Michael. There was silence. A long one. I thought she'd hung up. But then, quietly, she said, I figured you would. You told him I was his, then begged him to stay away? She didn't deny it. I did what I thought was right. No, you did what was convenient, I snapped. You made that decision for everyone. Your father, the man who raised you, he didn't deserve to have his world destroyed, she said, defensive now. You think he would have stayed? You think he would have looked at you the same way, knowing you weren't his? I swallowed hard. Maybe. But that should have been his choice. Not yours. She went quiet again. I was about to hang up when she whispered, there's something else. I stood by the window, heart pounding. What now? She let out a shaky breath. Michael wasn't the only one. I sat down. What do you mean? She hesitated. I told you I was confused back then. That summer was hard. There was someone else. Just once. A mistake. I didn't understand. Are you saying Michael might not be my father after all? No, she said quickly. He is. I know he is. I needed to tell you everything. But you didn't tell me everything, I shot back. You're still hiding pieces. Not hiding. I'm scared, Daniel. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I ended the call. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat there, phone still in my hand, feeling like my whole life had been built on sand. Later that day, I met Michael again. He was waiting for me at a bookstore cafe tucked between two cobblestone alleys. He looked surprised to see me. You came back. I had questions. He nodded, signaling for me to sit. I talked to my mom again, I said. She told me you did know. She told you. She asked you to stay away. He stared at the table. I wanted to stay. I thought about you every day. But I respected her choice. I told myself it was the right thing. Why didn't you reach out? Years later, even? He sighed. I did. Once. That stopped me. I wrote a letter. When you were 10. I didn't know your address, but I sent it to your mother's old workplace. Figured she'd get it. I blinked. She never said anything. Doesn't surprise me, he muttered. He pulled something from his coat pocket and handed it to me. A worn envelope, yellowed with age. Copy I kept for myself, he said. My hand shook as I opened it. It was a simple letter. A man trying to connect with a child he'd never met. Telling me about his music. His travels. Saying he hoped I was happy, loved, safe. That maybe someday, we'd meet. I couldn't speak. Then Michael said something that flipped everything again. She wasn't alone when she came to see me. I looked up. There was a man with her. Not your father. Someone else. Looked older. I thought maybe a friend. But now. I think he might have been someone more. I frowned. What do you mean? Michael shrugged. The way they talked. The way he looked at her. Protective, but close. Too close. It hit me like a brick. You think she had another affair? He gave me a look. I didn't say that. But I think your mom's been living with a lot more secrets than she let on. I left that meeting with more questions than answers. That night, back at the hotel, I dug through some old messages my mom had sent over the years. One stood out. A birthday card for Jake when he turned 1. It had a return address I didn't recognize, not her home. Not her office. I Googled it. It belonged to a man named George Melrose. I didn't know the name. But when I searched a little deeper, my stomach dropped. He used to work with my mom. Retired now. Lived just outside the city. Never married. No kids. Known to be quiet, private, and very, very close to my mother. I sat there, staring at his photo, and for the first time in my life, I started to wonder if my entire family was built on lies. Who was George Melrose? Why did his address show up on my son's birthday card? And what else had my mom kept hidden from me? The past was unraveling fast, and I was running out of thread. The next morning, I flew back to Chicago with a pit in my stomach. I didn't call Sarah. I didn't text my mom. I didn't even check in on Jake. I needed space, headspace more than anything. I needed to confront this, not in pieces, not in whispers, but face to face. 3 days later, I drove to my parents' house. The same house I grew up in. The place where I scraped my knees on the front steps, learned how to ride a bike on the sidewalk, opened birthday gifts in the living room. It didn't feel like home anymore. Mom opened the door with a nervous smile, like she was trying to pretend nothing had changed. Hi, honey. You look tired. I walked past her, straight into the living room. We need to talk. She closed the door slowly and followed me. Daniel, I told you everything. No, you didn't, I snapped. You gave me a version of the truth. And I'm done with half-truths. She looked startled, then tired. Like the weight of all her lies was catching up to her. I found the letter. The one Michael wrote. The one you never gave me. She sat down heavily. I was protecting you. I laughed bitterly. From what? A father who wanted to know me? He had no place in your life. You made that decision. Just like you decided to cut him out. Just like you decided not to tell Dad the truth. And don't think I didn't notice the card you sent Jake, with George's return address on it. Her eyes widened. She blinked rapidly, like she was trying to catch up. I kept going. Who is George, Mom? She looked away. Was he, someone you were involved with? Her voice cracked. He was there for me. After you were born. I was alone, confused. Your father had gone back to work full-time, I didn't have anyone to talk to. Was he more than a friend? She didn't answer. I pressed harder. Is there any chance he could be my father? She finally looked at me, and her eyes were full of shame. No, she whispered. I know Michael is your father. I got a paternity test when you were 6 months old. I just never told anyone. Not even your father. I stood there, stunned. You knew. All these years. You knew. She nodded, tears falling freely now. I was scared. I made a mistake. And I kept making it. I didn't even feel like yelling. The rage was there, but it had settled into something colder. Heavier. I felt numb. At that moment, my dad, the man who raised me, walked in, holding a grocery bag. He stopped when he saw us. What's going on? My mom looked like she was going to break. I need to tell you something, I said, before she could. She stood up, her voice shaking. No, Daniel, please. Let me. But it was too late. I turned to my dad. I'm not your biological son. He froze. His hand dropped the bag. Oranges rolled across the floor. He stared at me, then at her. What? She sobbed. I was going to tell you. I wanted to. So many times. Who? He demanded. Michael O'Connor, I said quietly. He was a musician. They met in the summer of '88. He stared at her, his face turning red, his jaw clenched so tightly I thought it might snap. All these years, he said. You let me raise him. Love him. Teach him. You let me think. I was scared, she cried. You were so happy when he was born. I couldn't ruin that. I thought we could move past it, you thought wrong. He turned to me. And you, how long have you known? 2 weeks. He laughed, bitter and sharp. So I'm the last to know. Perfect. My mom reached out to him, but he stepped back. Don't, he said coldly. Don't touch me. Then he walked out. Not just out of the room, out of the house. I heard the car start. Then nothing. The silence was unbearable. My mom sank to the floor, sobbing. I just stood there, staring at the oranges scattered across the hardwood. The fallout was immediate. Sarah was furious that I had gone through all this without talking to her. I don't blame her. I had shut her out. My dad didn't answer my calls for days. When he finally did, it was to say he needed space and that he'd always love me, but things had changed. That maybe they always had been different, I just didn't see it. Jake kept asking why Grandpa wasn't coming around anymore. And my mom, she stopped trying to fix things. For the first time in my life, she looked broken. Not because someone hurt her, but because she finally had to face what she had done to us. Eventually, I met with Michael one last time, back in Chicago this time. I asked him what he wanted, what kind of relationship he expected from me now. He said, that's up to you. I'm not here to replace anyone. I just want to know my son. But I didn't know if I was ready for that. Because in my heart, no matter how much truth had come out, no matter how many tests confirmed it, Michael wasn't the man who taught me how to throw a football. He wasn't the man who stayed up with me when I had fevers or helped me move into my first apartment. That was the man who walked out of the house when he learned he'd been living a lie for 35 years. I'm still picking up the pieces. My parents aren't talking. My mom is seeing a therapist now, finally. My dad moved into a small condo downtown and visits Jake when he can, but things are strained. I don't know if we'll ever get back to what we had. But I know this, truth has consequences. And secrets, even the ones buried for decades, don't stay buried forever. Maybe I needed to know where I came from. But in the end, what really shattered me was realizing how far people will go to protect a lie, and how much it can cost when it finally comes undone. I don't know if I'm hopeful. But I do know this, I'll never lie to my son.